To utilize cloud in an efficient way and ensuring the alignment of customers, business and IT within the rapidly changing IT ecosystems. Today's talking DevOps and Cloud Make a perfect match. I hand the stage over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, ladies and gents, I'm kind of standing between you and the coffee break, so let's make it quite clear and fast. As said, my name is Timo Oksa. I'm working for Tieto as a lead business developer, and your first question probably will be that what actually lead business developer does for a living. And I don't know what they actually do, but what I do is that I'm helping customers and people to find new different ways and dimensions on their journey in the cloud arena. So what I'm going to tell you is about DevOps and cloud and how they actually made a perfect match. And this is something I know that you think that, oh, boring, been there. Heard that, been there, somebody gave me a plastic bag, but this is not going to be that kind of a talk this time. Because I'm kind of telling you a story where it actually brings alive something that we usually forget here when we are having these events, which are sometimes quite technology orientated. And I sort of bring in here a totally different operator in the arena, so like an odd attractor in that sense, which is called the customer. So what I'm going to do here and tell you is a live experience from a few years back, which I was attending, and I had the privilege to attend actually with some company here in Finland. I would say it is not necessarily Finland, and it's not necessarily Tieto Corporate's customer, but this is true anyway. So we have actually gone through, or I have gone through this. So this is personal observations, how DevOps and cloud actually were working, and when they actually were not working that well. So that is something that I would like to share with you with the following 30 minutes. So usually I go backwards a little bit because you probably usually don't know that being as a technocrat in that sense, sorry about the wording, but sometimes we are very interested and sort of eager to see that what is a technology approach for, like, what is the methodology of DevOps and what is how it's practiced. Like in cloud, what are the technology aspects we can actually use? But actually, the whole process starts from far way before. So what we see usually is just the operational part of that. But the customers, they usually do have something before than we are engaged in their projects. So this is a true story, as I said, and it actually goes back a few years. But the company I'm sort of referring to, not saying what the company wasn't and why they were doing that, but it's still a valid case. They actually realized that they need to do something to get a little bit more, let's say, competitive in the arena they were working. So, of course, everything starts with a corporate strategy. So what they did was within the corporate, they were actually doing the corporate digitalization transformation strategy, which is a bit of a mouthful, to be honest, at least for a Finn to say that. So they started that, and they had their workshop of what we are going to do with, in general in our corporation, which will actually bring us to the next millennium. As always, these strategies are sort of cascading ones. So their next thing was to roll this down so that all the, let's say, the applicable units and business units and divisions were doing their own, based on the strategy the company itself had. So there were several of those units, but in this case there were product management, technical service, customer service, and internal IT were more or less involved. So in that sense they were actually case owners in respect. And of course there was a person who had a problem or actually an idea. And we can actually call him that he was a service owner or business owner. Depends on how you want to see that. Service owner in that sense that he was taking care of some customer services, feeding back or telling back to the customer something that what their products and services were producing. So it was kind of an external type of solution they were using. And of course he was business owner also, because he had some business targets to increase the volume of his service annually in certain amounts. So business and service owner. And he knew that he had to do something, or he had an idea without that much of anything regarding the IT background. He was thinking that, of course, we need to do this in the terms of strategy the company has. So what was actually told in the corporate strategy? Quite often there are fancy words there. So you probably, at least few of you have already read these strategies, seeing that there are terms like modernization, personification, open source, public clouds, big data. There are reusable assets. You just heard them. You know them what they are. You can see them everywhere in the corporate strategies that they are presenting what actually we are going to do. But when they cascade downwards in the organization, they become more solid and more concrete. And of course, all of these business units were more or less trying to find their own way of going against this framework, or these guidelines, really. So this person was in charge for the service, and he was thinking that, okay, I need to follow the strategy, so what should I do? Well, basically, after thinking for a while this and having planning sessions and workshops, he decided that actually what we need is a new online service. This is a great step forward. But this is actually a crucial moment for these people, because the customer side, because they actually decided to do something totally new, even though they had it. They had already this is new in that sense that they had a working, pretty old though, they had a working environment, online service on this. It was dated back to something like 6-7 years maybe. And it was not as functional as they wanted to. They just wanted that there weren't features enough the customers were asking. It was not sort of in that sense personal enough as per customer. And that kind of background was actually you could find on the service. So basically the most let's say most difficult or urging requirement came from the internal IT, because they were saying that, well, actually your service is running on servers and environment that is old already, so we are planning to decommission this, or just scrap it, the environment and at least the servers, within the next 2 years. So there was a time frame which he couldn't actually effect that much at all. So he had 24 months, about-ish, to sort out this problem. So what he did was he started planning something. And the planning goes like so that in these companies that what you start with is you go to some sort of a financial board, you present that this is my target, this is something what I want to do, and then they give the money if they like it, if they like your plan. And off he went. And the funny thing what he was able to create with some help with others was that this sentence is not nearly word to word, but it's very close to what was the tagline for the money. So this is what he actually asked for. For this, he asked for the funding. So, modernizing and updating legacy service using leading-edge public cloud platform products and services. So, there are only few taglines or buzzwords missing on this one, but this was good enough, and he got the money. So he got the funding. Now, this was basically the starting point, because now everything actually started. And when I was talking about earlier, when I was talking about DevOps and cloud, let's go more practical. Because in real life, like this one, for a few years back, the thing was that it was not DevOps and cloud in that sense at the time. It was pretty much more like there was development, there was cloud resources, and there was operational parts of things. So this is usually how it goes. And what happened next was that this person, he actually went to IT to ask that, the IT department to ask that, how can we actually do this? Because can you actually do this application for me, the service, create the service. And the IT department said that, nope, it's not our business. We geared up for totally different kind of deliveries. So this is not, we don't develop anything application side business. So this is a first kind of point we need to stop for a while and think about it. This happens actually every day, today already, and still happens, that these initiatives for renew something comes from outside, it comes from the business. And we still think that that is something that we just hear the first time, we heard that first time when a business owner comes to us and asks that you need to do something. And then we have these conversations with them, negotiations, and what should we do and how we should do it that way. But actually the whole cycle has started earlier, and it's actually should be beneficial to us, and us means we as ICT professionals, we are responsible for deliveries to our clients, whatever they may be. So we need to think that we should actually step forward a little bit earlier than just in the edge of the beginning of the project or program or whatever it's called. So, but at this case, this business owner thought that I need to do something else. And he actually got an answer from the IT department that we don't do that. But the thing is that what you can actually use, that we have resources here which have been sort of released for other purposes. So there were product development. They were doing quite a lot with over a time period, and they actually had a development team or teams, but I'm talking about one now. And the team was it was retrained development team in that sense that they had done previously. They had done a little bit different. Their skill set was a bit different, and they were doing a different kind of work. And now they had retrained by a company program to become a more like an online and web type application developers. And when you start from being a, let's say that if you have, this is just an example, but if you have done quite some time with ANSI C or C++ or C# or whatever, and then you suddenly, and you're doing more like steady or embedded application work and development, jump to sort of full stack environment is kind of a challenging thing to do. But it can be done, but it's sort of a challenging. And this also happens every time across the world, even today. We need to sort of reorganize our resources in the best possible way. The interesting part was that, as far as I know, they were familiar with agile methods. So they knew that they had experience, at least some level, they had experience of how to do application development using agile things, agile methods like having scrums or Kanban tables or stuff like that. So the process of doing it, they were familiar with it. But of course, it's just part of the dev. There are lots of development. There's quite a lot of other things too. And what they were, so the team was actually collected of, so the set of people who were sub-teamed by their skills. So there were people that they knew very well about databases. They were network people. They were platform guys. They were operation system guys. So they were teamed up by the skills they had. And this was a team which was not a small one. There were plus 50 people working in this team. So it was quite a big one, actually. If you actually call that as a team, because they hadn't done anything before, anything like this, but they were available. So the business owner went to them and asked that, could you actually do this? This is my requirements. I want something like this. It needs to be this and that, and it needs to be integrated, and it needs to be very flexible and that stuff. And you should probably use, because the guidelines say that you should use public clouds and new technology and whatever you can. So this team decided that, yeah, we can do that. We can start with that, and off they went. That was the beginning of the project itself. And then they started thinking that what should we do? And they actually started from the same guidelines set from the strategy, saying that it should be very modern. It should actually create reusable assets. It should be it should have some sort of a personification, open source, public clouds, you know. And that was their planning session. They started from that, actually. And there's basically nothing wrong with that, but the funny thing is, that is quite interesting is that this was not a pilot. This was not a mock-up. This was not any kind of, let's say, experimental way of thinking that we can actually do and accept new skills and try them. This is actually was a full-blown production environment in the end. So what they started doing, they were just thinking that let's do some work around here. So the next thing what they did was that, okay, they were saying that we are using public clouds, we need to use that, let's try what shall we try? And they went for Amazon Web Services on this one. They didn't really know that much about Amazon, and they went there because it was probably the easiest solution for this. And they started to think about and study about what kind of environment they should be. So what they did, of course, was that they went to, they asked some advice, and they asked advice from a consultant, which was basically a sales type of consultant, not a technology consultant. More like a, let's say, well, architect, yes, but not as much as they probably should have had. And the architect they were using told them that, okay, you are going to with Amazon Web Services. So there is a full stack of different kind of resources, services and resources you can use. And what you need is something like this, and sketched a picture of an architecture, which was, let's say, it was right in that sense that yes, the whole thing could be done with that, but it was not precisely a plan for or design of an architecture. It was pretty much like some services and some resources here, and then they are interconnected, and then there's integration, then it suddenly ends up to this and like that. You know, it's like something to start with. And they actually started with that. So there was a architecture, service architecture, which was following what they actually were asked for. Then they asked that from the internal IT that could you actually help us on this one? So how to set this up? So could you help to set up a virtual servers and that kind of things? And the IT said, well, unfortunately not, because it's not actually our job. Because we have something else to do. We don't know anything about Amazon services. We don't have resources, or we're responsible for something else. So there is a sort of a cutoff between the team and the IT in that phase. And they were thinking that, well, then it needs to be done. We need to do that by ourselves then. And then they reassigned, they actually made the sub-team structure here. So they took what they found from Amazon as resources and restructured the teams by them. I'm saying that there are people who are taking care of the storage and networks and whatever services there was, whatever you could actually find from the catalog, actually, to be fair on that one. And then they actually start doing things. It's probably the best way of saying it, that these teams, smaller teams, were actually going into the Amazon cloud, and they just started to set up tools and well, virtual servers first, and then tools and databases and whatever they had. So separate teams. And quite soon there was something like, well, I don't really know, but let's say that there were at least 10, 15 different teams that are actually doing at the same time were hassling in the same Amazon instance there. Because they actually all did their own work, but nobody really knew what others were doing. And the team leader, there was kind of a trouble, because the only way he could actually see what kind of process there was the credit card bill, because it was his credit card and they bought the services from Amazon. So time passed, and the business owner was starting to be quite worried, because he would actually see that, he would like to see that, what's the progress? Where are we at the moment? And after 10 months of conducting this program or this project, what they had was, they had basic tools that was in place, meaning that they had the tools they needed for development work. Most of them were working, they had them. They were integrated and they could actually do what they were needed, what was needed. There were some public stack services, or meaning Amazon resources were deployed. Not all. They had a very, let's say, they were quite ambitious of getting forward with that one. So what they had was a quite big set of resources they were using, and but not all they were planning to use, but there were only a few of them actually included in the set. But what was quite interesting was that not a single line of back-end code was actually written. So they hadn't done anything else but just setting up the environments of development, testing, staging, and production. Maybe not production, but anyway. They were just there. And I can understand that the business owner got a little bit worried about this one because they had spent some time. There was 8 months still left. So 18 months was the run for this project. It's 2 years from the decommissioning of the servers, but time has passed. So they had only 8 months left until their current servers would be blown up in pieces in the basement of this company. And he asked us, what you are going to do here, because you are running out of my money, and I don't have anything left yet, so I haven't seen anything that you have provided to us. And they had quite fierce conversations, and then the business owner went back to IT asking that, you need to take over this. And they were saying, no. We say no, and you need to understand why, because this is not something we can do. We don't have resources for this. We are not project managers. We don't have development teams. We don't know anything about public clouds. We actually only take care of what is necessary for the company backbone and the services. So please, we can't do that. But what they actually did was that they did something kind of right. So this is the next point. You will end up some sort of difficulties here, definitely, at some point anyway. And you need to be careful that when you go with the public clouds, I don't say Amazon is a great tool and great services, but they are so easy. So you can actually go too far with that quite easily. It's easy to test. Sometimes I've been told that some companies say that the only way they know that what they are ongoing, they are checking that from the credit card bill. Yeah, I know this is a rough way of saying that, but sometimes that's very true. So what the IT department did was actually they were saying that we need some sort of a problem buster here. So off we went. So we had a conversation with the development team, and I remember the first line in the teleconference. The team leader asks me that, so his opening line was, so what you can do with AWS. Right, this is not a very good starting point, because actually the starting point is that what are you supposed to do? So let's start from here. And after some conversations, it ended up to a situation where, first of all, I must say that even though I said earlier that DevOps and Cloud make a perfect match, Dev and Cloud made a perfect mess if you let it happen. So that's not the right way of doing things. There are too many experiences on that. But what we did was that we restructured the thing. So first we separated development out from cloud. So basically we took the fun out of everything, because the developers like to do that. They are very interested, can I actually set up these servers and cluster them and install the database and that stuff? Yes, you can, but it's not your job. Do what you are told, because that actually led you the first time, in the first place, that led you actually to problems. So we separated them. That was not very easy. Of course, it was easy in that way that we created clear responsibilities. So there was a middleman. Man in the middle was kind of a phrase here, but you know what I mean. Look at the picture, man in the middle. So there is a operational guy or guys who actually their task was to assist with the cloud. So what they did was they were buffering it. So their profile was partly developers, partly architects, partly cloud-specific admins. So they knew quite a wide of set of things, but a little bit differently. Some were more admin, some were more dev. So they knew what they were doing, and they were buffering the stuff. And the dev team was told that you are not going to touch anything here, because we actually disabled all the keys you have, so there are totally different passwords now. So this is the way how it goes, trust me. And that's the way how the fund went out from the project, from the development team side. The next thing, we did only 3 things there. That was the first one. The second one was very simple workflows. That meant that they had tools for that already, but they have no use for them, but we actually implemented that. So very simple ways of get this thing done. Meaning that if you wanted a new user to add in to some like database user or whatever, there is a single request how to do that. And since the guys, those blue ones, were very close to the team itself, even though they are not actually the same premises, but they're very close tied with that team, they actually could do that instantly because they had the access to the resources anyway. That was the second one, make it easy. And the third one was pretty much the burst thing we could actually do from the development team point of view, even though they took it quite nicely that we actually put hands-on evangelists there, Devops Evangelists, and their task was to introduce this team to a more flexible, fluent, and a more effective way of working, which is in that sense where the ops was also included, and what the dev meant as an agile way of working and how they actually tightly connected. So they were sort of evangelists. They weren't training anything, they were just introducing them to this. Training doesn't work very well in situations like this. You need to learn it, and you learn it from somebody's example. Somebody shows you how it works. So DevOps and Cloud, what you need to understand of this concept, and I said that they actually made a perfect match, is you need to start to create the culture. One way or another, you need to build that. You have heard this several times before in this arena, definitely. But that is one of the most difficult things to do because that takes time, but only by doing it slowly and avoiding those errors. The other one, the second one is automation. It means that whatever you can, take the human out of it. Let the computer and the servers and whatever scripts and spells do the stuff, because you don't need people and you don't need person and you don't need personnel there to do some things. Automate. Be as simple as you can by using this. And get better. Getting better means that you need to, every time you need to re-evaluate what you do, because sometimes things tend to be like you get used to them and they may become false. They may become some waste in them, so re-evaluate it whenever you can. And of course, the fourth one here is that engage business. Because if in this example, the business owner had known that this is the way how to do things, the team itself and himself, they could actually teamed up earlier. So now we're talking about biz DevOps, which is a bit newer concept, but it only means that engage the business people on this so that they would actually understand what to expect and be them and let them be part of your team. So, and by doing this, the DevOps and Cloud actually make a perfect match, which is the best thing here. Well, a couple of slides still, but these are fast. The funny thing usually is that in Finland we have saying that the shoemaker kids, they usually don't have shoes. Means that, does Tieto have this DevOps thing ongoing? Now we have. After a couple of years, we are actually bringing in this. And it means that we use that as external projects and product development, internal ones. We are using it. We are driving it in because this is the only way of doing the business. Make it actually correctly. And we do have the business element included in this. So in that sense, I'm kind of on the left-hand side of myself is in the left side of the business, or this infinite loop here. And the other thing is also, which is not probably known as well, that there is also a cloud service provider. So I mean that we are integrating our own services into our own clouds, or the cloud environment. But I don't go in more detail on that because you can come and ask how that actually works. And of course, we are here presenting here, and we have people there in the corridor. We do have Nico Herold, who's taking care of the DevOps business, and myself, who's taking care of the cloud business. So you can come and ask from us whatever pops into your mind. Otherwise, I think you deserve, as myself, I deserve my coffee, and you deserve it also. I thank you very much. As they say in Las Vegas, you're a great audience, and thank you very much, and have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you.